We've been asked to look at certain items from a tax perspective for the state of Colorado, state only, not anything for locals. And so one of the things that tends to come up, as you mentioned, Meredith, and it's not unusual here for Colorado either, is potentially, and I use that word very strongly, potentially expanding the sales tax base. And Colorado happens to be one state where we don't typically at the state level tax a lot of services, and I use services as a big word because that means lots of different things. Because it could be, that we don't tax, professional services. We don't tax certain services related to the sale of tangible personal property. Now there are the cities that do differently, but again, I'm working with the state, and so that really did kind of open the door to the fact that we've got all sorts of different states that do tax services, different types of services. Tram happens to be in a state that does, Texas. And, I think one thing that maybe the viewers might not be totally aware of is that, even though Colorado might not tax a lot of services, we do have other taxes, right? We have property taxes, we have income taxes, we have all sorts of other types of excise taxes, we have all sorts of other taxes that apply. Whereas maybe a state like Texas or New Mexico, some of these other states, right? They're taxing more goods and services because perhaps they don't have other layers of tax. So Texas is an example that doesn't have a personal income tax. And so I think sometimes we see clients, taxpayers get caught up in the fact that, oh, some of these states might look more favorable because they don't tax certain things or they don't impose certain taxes. But as we all know here anyway, the states are getting their money somehow. So, having said that, since we do have legislative sessions starting, I think we're going to see more states looking at different ways to raise revenue, and that could be, expanding a sales tax base. That could be, some other kind of tax that they impose, whether they can or not. And so those are just some things I think for people to keep an eye out. And we seem to see some of the same bills get proposed, year over year, and maybe they don't have any teeth. Maybe some years they get more teeth, they stall, but every year is a new legislative session, so we'll see what happens. So I don't know if there's, Alex is in Minnesota, Tram's in Texas, so I don't know if you guys have some thoughts on what your states might be looking at doing.